would be useful to go over our Royal Crown Derby paperweight auctions, because people often say, how do you know which ones are best? How do you tell if it's a first? What makes it more valuable? What do you need to look for? So what I wanted to do was, first of all, talk a little bit about the history. These Royal Crown Derby paperweights started to be produced in September 1981, and they started with 6 models. And those 6 paperweights were the owl, the duck, the quail, the penguin, the wren, and the rabbit. And those little 6 paperweights started a collecting phenomenon that hasn't been seen in any other porcelain factory in the UK. Absolutely crazy the market went. We are now approaching 500 individual models. It has been a boom for Royal Crown Derby. In the 1980s and 90s, as the demand for dinnerware fell, all the ceramic factories looked at other opportunities to make them profitable, and Royal Crown Derby looked at paperweights. So what do you look for when you're buying a paperweight? Well, the first thing to do is check it's a first. So the way to do that, take your paperweight, turn it upside down, and have a look at the gold stopper. If it's a gold stopper, it should be a first. If it's a silver stopper, it's likely to be a second. But that isn't conclusive. Just imagine you have a paperweight that is rare, that might be worth £1,000, and it has a silver stopper. That means it's a second. That means it could well be worth £500 or £600, a drop of 500. But let's just say you have a paperweight that is common, but is a first. Might be worth £50, £60. If they take the stopper out of the first, that is the cheap one, and put the gold stopper in the more expensive one, then the value rises by 500 on the expensive one, but only drops by 30 on the cheap one. So you've got to be careful. The next thing to do is look at the mark. So this is your Royal Crown Derby mark here in red. Hold it in the light and just see if you can see a pin scratch through that mark. If you see a pin scratch, irrelevant of what colour the stopper is, if you see a pin scratch, it is a second. So beware. If you're still not sure, the other thing to do is look at the piece itself. Because the way somebody has decided that this is a second or a first is by examining it and having a really good look. So if you can see an obvious fault, or it's not quite straight, or there's something obviously wrong, then it will be a second. Then you also need to look at your box. So some of the boxes have a little label on the side. This says paperweight llama. Good news. So that box is original to that paperweight. Now look inside. Because inside, got the original tissue, but no certificate. What you need to look for is one of these. Royal Crown Derby certificate. The very first paperweights were filled with sand. They were a very practical, useful object, and the stopper stuck in afterwards. But the weight of the paperweights meant that the cost for shipping and transport was prohibitive. So they drained all the sand out, and instead of having a gold stopper, they made an integral stopper out of porcelain, a white porcelain stopper. So some of the earlier ones have that white porcelain stopper, but the collectors didn't like it. So they didn't last very long, and then they went back to the gold and silver stoppers that we see today. So don't always assume that because it's a gold or silver stopper, it's a later one, because the very first ones that were filled with sand also had those gold and silver stoppers. There are different paperweights made for different reasons. Some are made simply to sell to the public, like this one. This one, however, was commissioned by one of the stores that was a great retailer and still is a great retailer. Sinclair's are major retailers of Royal Crown Derby paperweights. Their biggest establishment was in Bakewell. Now they're in London. They're elsewhere as well, but the main store is in London. And Sinclair's will go to Royal Crown Derby and they will say, could you make this? Could you make that? And they will commission a designer at Royal Crown Derby to make something specifically for them. And that is a Sinclair's option. So Sinclair's often more saleable than one available just to anybody in the general public. Now this one, the Hippo, this says an exclusive gold signature edition. It's signed by the artist here as well. And the African series do really well. So a Hippo like that in its original box could quite easily make £300. This was the first Royal Crown Derby paperweight that I bought. Starlight hair. I think I paid at Royal Crown Derby about £65 for mine. I bought it new. I think this will make a profit. So it's very rare that you can buy something directly from the factory and within a couple of years they start to make a profit. These are now making £80 to £120. So again, this one says exclusive for the Royal Crown Derby Collectors Guild. And I was a member of that. And the Collectors Guild was an organisation where you can have an annual membership. It gave you the option to be first in line for something like that. So that's a good one. Then also look at this one. So this is Panther, really, really popular. Now, it's not a Royal Crown Derby limited edition. It's not made for anybody like Sinclair's. It's a simple one that you could buy off the shelf, but still really, really popular. And these are now making £100 to £150. We have had a couple recently that have made the £200 mark. So again, showing a really good return on investment. This collection is put together from lots of different owners. We get loads and loads of Royal Crown Derby paperweights, and we probably sell more than anyone else in the world. But all jolly stylish, all incredibly difficult to decorate. People think that hand decorating is the most difficult, but if you've ever tried to put a transfer print on a Royal Crown Derby paperweight, believe me, it is not easy. And these artists are incredibly skilled. There aren't many factories left in England. Royal Crown Derby is one of the last remaining greats, and the paperweights have a major part to play in that success. So the last two Royal Crown Derby paperweight auctions we had are what we call white glove. And a white glove auction is when every single lot sells. So the pressure's on. I'm just hoping the results will be as good. Starlight hair again, 95, 100, 95 front row, 90, 100, 110, 100 has it.